Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. So sadly, many of us found out on Friday that a video footage was released of Rayshard Brooks. He had fallen asleep in his car in the Wendy's drive-thru, here in Atlanta, and employees of Wendy's called the police, and they stopped him. When I stopped, they woke him up and thought he may have been under the influence. So they asked him to move his car from the drive-through and pull over into the thing, which he did. And then they asked him to step out the car. They gave him a field sobriety test. They had him for 20 minutes, and he was being very compliant. He told them that his sister lived right down the street. His daughters were there. He'd been celebrating one of his child's birthday or something like that. And he asked if he could just walk home. And so they tried to arrest him. It turned to a scuffle. He actually outpowered both of them, and they had pulled out the taser to tase him. He actually grabbed one of the tasers and took off running, turned around and tried to shoot the taser at them. And one of the police officers shot at him 3 times, striking him in the butt and in the back, and he died. So the police officer, the one that killed him, was Devin Brosman, and he wasn't the one. He was the one of the other officers, and he was placed on administrative duty. And the officer who killed him was Garrett Rolfe, was immediate fired. Also, the district attorney, Paul Howard, confirmed that there will be a decision to charge Rolfe by Wednesday of this week. The Atlanta police chief, Erica Shields, she resigned immediately after Keisha Lance Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta, she called for the termination of Garrett Rolfe. So that all happened. Today, the mayor released new rules and guidelines for the police to follow. We have Attorney Melanie Davis back with us. Welcome back, Melanie. What can you tell us about this situation?
Like I stated in my previous presence on your podcast, Paul Howard was my former boss. I was an assistant district attorney in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. So if a charging decision is to come out on Wednesday or by Wednesday, so that means it could even come out tomorrow, it would likely be felony murder because felony murder is a murder that occurs during the commission of an underlying felony. So it could, in this case, aggravated assault, which is the firing of the weapon that caused the bodily harm and eventually causes death. So I do believe that there's evidence of that, but it's going to be an interesting case for several reasons. So I guess 2-3 weeks ago, Paul Howard charged 6 police officers with aggravated assault for pulling out 2 college students and tasing them, and stating that a taser is a deadly weapon. And I did a little research because I wasn't sure if a taser was a deadly weapon or not. And it can be if you have like pre-existing like heart conditions, you can have a heart attack. And they often malfunction and misfire. But let's get back to the actual encounter. So he's in the drive-through, sleep, does the sobriety test, fails. I think he blew a .108, so a little over the legal limit. Which is .02. Yeah. Got into the fight. I read articles. I mean, I watched the video, but obviously there's the surveillance video, all the different videos. But I read an article. I think it was in the New Yorker, or one of the so many news sources, but that thoroughly looked at all the videos, and one of them said that Mr. Brooks punched Rolfe, and so I don't know if anybody talked about that, but at that point he had already taken the taser from the other guy, and so he had it in his hand. He punched Rolfe and then ran away, turns around, shoots it, doesn't reach him, and then turns around again. And so since you can only shoot that taser one time, are you really in the reasonable fear that you are going to be that you're going to suffer imminent bodily injury or death if the taser's already been fired and he missed, and he's running away? And so I even looked at the and this is prior to Mayor Bottom's revision of the Atlanta Police Policy Guidelines, but I read the policy on the use of excessive force when the person is escaping. So the officer had every right to give chase, but you can't use deadly force on an escapee unless that person is an imminent threat to or danger to the community, meaning that he has a gun and can shoot more people with it. But if you have someone running away with a taser, then you shooting them in the back is not justified. And I even read a report that said after Rolf shot him, he said, "I got him."
I got him. Yep. I saw
he
that
said,
too.
"I got him."
Yep.
Like he was like a deer. Or I mean, like just like an animal.
Yep.
Like it was a game. Because I mean, I think honestly he was embarrassed. Like it took two of them and he still out muscled them, outmatched them, outran them.
Mm-hmm.
Outran them. So he had to shoot because he couldn't overtake him, and he got in a punch. I don't know where he punched him, but he got in the lick before he ran off. So can you imagine Rolf he was probably pissed. He said, "Well, I'm gonna get this N-word."
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and the thing was they had his car, they had his ID because when they pulled him over, he showed them his ID, so they knew where he lived. And there are ways they could have gotten him. He didn't, like you said, he didn't have like a weapon on him. And when I was watching one of another special, he used to be a former police officer. I forgot what exactly he does now, but he's been on CNN a lot lately dealing with all the protests and whatnot. And he said, I just went blank. I'm sorry. But he's been on there.
It's all mentally exhausting.
It is.
Like, I'm exhausted.
It is. I mean, because it's like we've been having protests for 3 weeks, and you have the audacity to shoot another black man. You know what I mean? He was saying, I'm sorry. He was saying that the police officer could have hurt other people by shooting into a parking lot like that. That's what he was saying. But go ahead, Ms. Parker, I'm sorry.
And no, I agree with Mel. I think it was a lot of ego involved. I think his ego was bruised that he weren't able to apprehend Mr. Brooks and Rayshard. I think that he was upset that he was overpowered. And you know, I was reading an opinion piece about why Rayshard may have reacted the way he did. We're not safe in police officers' presence.
Right, exactly.
We're not safe in their custody.
Yeah.
Black men are not, black people, period, are not safe getting into the car and just going for a ride up to the station. Like it's not something that that is just like a routine thing for us. You know, it's traumatizing. There are things that we've already experienced that may cause us to react the way we do. It's not just, we're out here just refusing to do what the police says, but we are treated differently. I'm going to give you an example. I saw a video, I wish I can find it again and repost a video of a guy that I have actually two videos that I can remember. One was a white gentleman who had a machete or something in his hands, and there were like 4 police officers, and he was literally going at them. Got taken in with not a scratch on him. I saw one with a guy waving a gun. He was literally waving his gun, going like this, and they stood there and said, "Put the gun down," and got him without shooting him. There are situations that I've seen that anyone in their right mind would have been afraid that they may have been killed. And I know the police officers, if that person was black, would for a second would not have hesitated to kill those people.
Well, even the guy who shot up the church in South Carolina, they took him to Burger King after they apprehended him. On the way to police officers, they took him to Burger King.
Right, and the fact that he told them that he could walk home, it could have been easily resolved. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of times when these police officers need to be retrained for sure. You show up on the scene where a man is sleeping in his car. Obviously, okay, he's been drinking. He's not in a condition to drive home. This could have been turned around where they could have offered him, well, my sister lived down the street, could get in the car, we're going to take you to your sister's house. Yeah. We'll give you a citation, we'll give you a ticket, or whatever it may be. It could have been so easily resolved. You know what I mean? So easily, if we would just looked at as people instead of criminal, because he was already criminalized, and that's why those things weren't offered to him, right? Yep. But if we had just been looked at as a person, a situation that needs help, it could have been easily resolved. But because when they showed up and already had a mindset that he was a criminal. He was already criminalized because by the color of his skin. That option wasn't something that they felt was available to them.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question for Mallory.
He told them that he, like, his sister lived like nearby. He even requested to park his car and walk.
Yep.
He said, "Can I just go to my sister's house?" I mean, they could have gave him, they could have impounded the car or let it stay overnight. I think that's the Wendy's in the West End, right?
Yeah.
Like by the West End Mall.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just, it could have been handled much more differently. I just
more human, like with some compassion, like it just, I don't know how it escalated from somebody sleeping in their car to him being arrested. I just don't get that.
I fall asleep in my car. Thank God I didn't fall asleep in the Wendy's driveway though. But
Right.
I have fallen asleep in my car after a night of drinking and just sobered up and drove home after I slept it off. But if someone was to, but like my car wasn't running, but if someone was to find me sleeping in my car, I mean, that's not a crime to sleep in your car. But I just think that, we're not given the benefit of the doubt. We're not given compassion. And it's just unfortunate. And I think, it's funny that the police chief stepped down. I mean, is that like in solidarity or because I guess
I was confused. Well, they said a lot of police officers, they said about 14 police officers have quit since in the last 10 days since the protest. Some people have done it.
Black people anymore.
Right.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
We're gonna get
I think she quit because she was on the news a couple of weeks earlier or a week earlier during the protest when the protest first started, stating that she felt like Keisha Lansbottom was being hard on the police, especially when those two officers were charged, being hard on the police out of political reasons. So she felt like this whole thing is politicized, and that especially in Atlanta, that Keisha Lansbottom has a political agenda to be hard on police officers.
I read that.
I think what it is I think she really do believe that whatever the police does is justified. And so because she can't no longer operate in that mode, she no longer wants to do the job, and that's fine. She needs to, and the rest don't need to follow suit.
Yeah. So what's the latest on the Breonna Taylor case, Mel?
So they passed Breonna's law, which means that no-knock warrants are now illegal in Louisville, but 3 months later, still no arrests. And I know Beyonce issued a statement today. I know she didn't write it, but she issued a statement in support of charging the officers. So it's shit's hitting the fan when Beyonce is getting involved because she says nothing most of the time. I think she made the first statement for George Floyd. And I think that was because he's from Houston and it was just a national outcry. So she was like, I gotta say something. And I'm pretty sure she obviously sympathized, but I mean, typically her and Jay-Z are pretty silent in these matters. Didn't he say something about to Colin Kaepernick about we can't take knees, we need to, because he was
I think he's very active. He's very active. He says something on every incident. I think his
a lot of it's behind the scenes.
Yeah, but I think also
and I appreciate that because I think sometimes we put too many expectations on celebrities to make statements, and that's not their lane. So if they're able to give money to causes that are fighting on the front lines to end racism in America, I think that's great. And I think it's a good idea to not always, to do stuff behind the scenes, as opposed to like people like Kim Kardashian, who's doing great work getting people out, but like the two Black attorneys that are doing all the actual work to get these prisoners out are not getting the attention. But, so I mean, this country is so backwards as far as giving celebrities this platform and thinking that they're these social change agents, and she's just like, she got famous from doing a sex video. So it's like, I don't think that we should give them such a huge platform. But the warrant was not even valid. There were no packages. There were no drug packages sent to the house. They were like Amazon. They were Amazon packages. Also, the warrant, if you're going to approve a no-knock warrant, you have to particularly specify who in the house is so dangerous. And you can't just say all of the members of the house. You have to specify who they are and why they are dangerous. So that would include a criminal background listing, any kind of violent crime. So, because if they've just she had an arrest for shoplifting in 2012. And I'm just like, I hate that when they just tell you what they did 8 years ago when they were a teenager, like it matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That she deserved to die because she was and I think that shoplifting was eventually dismissed or thrown out. So it's like, why, when someone is killed by the police, that they have to bring up their alleged criminal background when that has nothing to do. And so they brought in her boyfriend for, aggravated assault for shooting the police officer, but they were in plain clothes. He had no idea.
He didn't know. He didn't know. He thought someone was breaking his home. But it was interesting.
The warrant was not valid. The warrant was not valid. There were no drug packages sent to the house. They even asked the postal inspector. The postal inspector was like, I didn't tell them that. So the detective lied on the warrant. So the warrant was illegal. It was an illegal search. And no knock warrants in this case were not, and I believe they already had the person in custody who they were looking for.
Wow. Yeah, they already had the person in custody.
They already had in custody. Yeah. So, obviously there will be a civil suit as there is in all of these cases, and Ben Crump or, one of the other attorneys, one of our friends, Justin Miller or Chris Stewart or whoever's handling these cases, and or Lee Merritt. There is now a cottage legal industry of representing the families of Black men and women who have been killed by the police. It's now like its own practice. Yeah. Like it's literally, and it's like, it sickens me. But, so yeah, I haven't heard any word of charges yet, but what were we gonna say, Steve?
Yeah, no, I agree. But it was when you were talking about once someone is killed, they bring up their past or they, dehumanize them. Rayshard, his boss, was interviewed today on CNN, and he'd only been working there for a month, but she said that he was very loved and he was a dedicated worker. They said that when he moved into his place and furnished it, he helped furnish another employee who was a single mother who couldn't afford it. And she said, I want to make sure that we tell the real stories of who these people were. And because on the news sometimes they're misrepresented.
That's a shame that you even have to do that.
Yeah.
None of that should even matter. The fact that he was loved, and what if he wasn't? He still didn't deserve to be killed.
Right. Exactly.
The fact that we have to come up with these stories to justify who we are so that we're not criminalized is ridiculous. And just go back to the Breonna case, I think that it's kind of, this is just what I've been noticing. I think that when a Black woman is killed, she doesn't get as much attention and support. I think because when a Black man is killed, Black women are at the front line supporting and leading the cause and leading the way for justice for them. But I do not feel the same passion from Black men. I'm going to plead on here that we need your support. We need to feel safe. We need to feel protected. We need to feel like you guys have our backs as much as we have yours. I did not feel that much support when a Black woman is killed from the Black community, from the Black male community, as far as requesting justice for that person. I think the same passion that we do for Black men who are killed, we need to focus on that for Black women who are killed as well.
Most definitely. Well, let's switch gears real quick before we go. So yesterday was 45's birthday. He turned 74 years old. But people took to social media and decided to make it Obama Day. And so they posted pictures of him with the hashtag Obama Day, Obama Appreciation Day, Obama Day USA, and all birthdays matter. Celebrities did it. I saw Mariah Carey post a picture of her and Michelle Obama and President Obama. It was just, for me, it was kind of funny. They said, obviously, usually Obama, he takes the high road. He doesn't get petty with it. And Trump surprisingly hasn't said anything. He said doing his first rally, by the way, in Tulsa, where we had Black Wall Street and it was destroyed. He was going to do it on Juneteenth, but he has now since changed that to Saturday. That man is a petty somebody. What do you thought? But one thing that good has come through all this, I'm seeing a lot of things mainstream when it comes to Juneteenth and things that impact the Black community. I think that is awesome. That these people that are being murdered, it's not done, without something positive coming from it. Mel, you have any final thoughts?
I just wish I could stop waking up every day like Groundhog Day and turning on the news and seeing another unarmed Black man or woman unjustifiably killed by the police.
Yeah.
And I just hope that this brings about significant change. We didn't talk about qualified immunity. I know you all probably heard about that. It's because you can't sue the police individually. And today the Supreme Court just ruled that they're not going to take up a case where that's an issue. So qualified immunity will remain, and the taxpayers will be paying out, will be responsible for paying out these millions of dollars in settlements to these families of these victims who continue to be unjustifiably killed by the police. And I don't know if you all talked about this, but they did a bond hearing for the McMichaels who murdered Ahmaud Arbery. There's videos showing that one of them called him a nigger.
Yeah, got that shot him. No,
so that is a hate crime.
Effing nigger.
That's a hate crime. Georgia
after he stood over his body, his dead body.
So if you can't show intent to discriminate or intent, to violate someone's rights because of the color of their skin after he stood over his dead body and called him an effing nigger, I don't know what a hate crime is. But Georgia does not have a state law hate crime statute, but the federal government does. But again, when you have a president and an attorney general that are Republicans and racist, I don't know what the hate crime will be charged, but I hope it is. I hope it is. So that's why it's very important for everybody to vote. I saw all you all with your Georgia Peach stickers showing that you voted, stood in line for hours. The Republicans can only win by cheating. Yeah, that's the best way they can win. Yeah. They don't want us to be able to mail in our ballots. Like in California, I can mail mine in because since we have a Democratic governor, like that's, most of the states with Democratic governors, you can mail in your ballots. So because the people that are voting are old and sick. So like they don't want to have to go and vote in person. But it's very important because once Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies, there will be a 6-3 conservative majority if he gets to pick one more Supreme Court justice. Yeah. Okay. He already has 5. So, I mean, those are lifetime appointments. So these are people making decisions that will affect not only us, but our children, our children's children for generations to come. We're still feeling the effects of, for instance, like Roe versus Wade and them trying to take back the abortion rights after that case was decided 40 years ago. So, I mean, once this law is made, it's hard to change it. So once you have and it's unfortunate that we're in Georgia, they tried so hard still to vote and so hard to, suppress the vote because that's the only way they can win is by cheating. Yeah. So well I hope that everybody continues to fight the good fight. For my mental health, I've been traveling. And because everywhere is different. Vegas is different. Dallas is different. Well, Texas, they didn't care, and Vegas is right behind it. So, but I just think that, like you all were speaking about earlier, if we all keep our immune systems up, that we will be healthy and continue, because we can't continue to live in fear. Yeah. I think everyone just has to be safe and be smart. Mel, thank you as always for joining us and giving us your insight. Ms. Parker, Nair, have a great week. Cheeky, I'll see you in movie reviews. Well, actually, Ms. Parker, I will see you in Mental Health Mondays, but right back after this.
All right, guys. See you later.
Bye.